Hi, I'm Sarah Larson. I'm having some trouble with the light here. It is 9 o'clock a.m. in San Francisco. The one thing I do want to say before I even get into this question is I am a learning and organizational development practitioner, which means that, as Moritz has said, I actually run both things like performance management, succession planning, organizational change for an organization, as well as skill development, people development, and employee, all of that stuff, employee engagement, basically the entire gamut. And when I was thinking of when Lavinia reached out, she was just like, "Do you have a question?" And I was just like, I have so many questions. And how do I bring forth a question that not only hasn't been asked before, but something that maybe I could shed some light on? And one of the things that I think about is, what's changed my perspective this year? What's come up for me that maybe has come up this year that's going into next year? What am I working on going into next year? And it kind of concluded in this question of like, what illusions do we hold in L&D, and how can breaking them really enhance our workforce? How could breaking these illusions, breaking these biases, break the way that we do things, as every other speaker has talked about this entire session, um, to make what we do not only more impactful, but to help the business and the organization become more successful alongside our employees. And this also came up from like watching a Diary of a CEO podcast. If you don't listen to this podcast, it's phenomenal. And it was a physicist talking about, well, what if the Big Bang didn't happen the way that we thought it did? I was on the edge of a Nobel Peace Prize, and I couldn't get to the answer, but what is happening here? Like, what could have happened? What is different? What could be different if the things that we think have happened one way actually happened a different way? So kind of transitioning back into this core narrative, why not just look at the part of the business that we have, which is L&D, but also look into where we tend to pull from, which is the OD piece. Maybe we tend to pull from them, but we might not necessarily be creating with them. So, we do performance management training, but we may not be creating the performance management process, right? And so that's kind of where this question comes in for me. And if you've ever heard me speak before, I talk about leadership development, and I talk about the ways that I've implemented it with a lot of what y'all have said. So implementing it with a mindset of accessibility, inclusion, diversity, and watching it grow alongside the business and have that organizational success. And the thing I will kind of like say again is, instead of just being an L&D practitioner, when people ask me like, what do you do? It's like, well, I work on, these types of things, but instead of being in the people business, I say I'm in the information business. I think one illusion that we have as L&D practitioners, is that, and as this has been said before in this kind of this forum, is we have to wait to be told what to do, as opposed to trying to design with the business and the organization on what they're going to do, and like the potential growth that they have, and what's coming up for us in the future. So if we started thinking more along the lines of L&D, but into that OD space, we might be able to get in line with the business, and really be impactful, not just for right now, but also for the future, and be a little bit more sustainable. I see I have 8 seconds left. Is that right? I'm so sorry. No,
No,
okay.
it's not.
Okay, cool. Anyways, what I want to like kind of point out here too is there's this impact zone between L&D and OD, where you get to the point of the creating something more impactful. We align the individual growth to the organizational goals, where skills, systems, and culture come together to cultivate success. So to give you an example of how I'm thinking about this for next year, one of the things that I did before and I'm still doing is leadership development, right? So I still, instead of doing the traditional, like, who's the perfect leader, I'm thinking about what are the skills that we want to cultivate in our leaderships, thinking about succession wise, like who do we want to see at the top eventually? And I always start at the bottom, because I believe, and this is the organizations I'm a part of also have to believe this for me to be there. That leadership is at every level. Everyone should be able to cultivate these skills if they want to, and if they want to move forward in the business, they should be able to do that as well. So one of the things I'm also working on besides leadership is mentorship. And one of the illusions I want to break through with mentorship is This will be my like fifth mentorship program I've developed. I've kind of run the gamut. I've done, one-to-one mentorship, group mentorship, cross-functional focus mentorship, stuff like that. And my question is, and this is like more of a question for my business and my executives of like, who do we think need to collaborate in the next year or so to make these initiatives possible? And that's maybe, can I pull in mentorship in those specific groups where they form a relationship before they even have to go and work on an initiative or a project together to ensure that that could be more efficient, more effective, and more kind of ready and adaptable for change, right? Because if they know each other, they know how each other work, they have additional information on each other, they could be more successful and perform even better in the future when this initiative does arrive. I don't know how much time I have left. I'm going to say one more thing. Other illusions we might disrupt or talk about is, change is optional. It's not. We've all talked about that the entire kind of presentation here today. Change is no longer optional. We have to be agile. We have to intertwine it into every single thing that we teach. And then engagement is never a separate goal. It's always intertwined as well. And then also linear development. It's not really a thing anymore. You kind of become more of a lattice type thing. So those are just some illusions I'm thinking about. But I'd love to hear from you on what you think about, what comes to mind when you think about illusions that you like maybe held so dear that maybe it's time to change, especially after hearing everyone today. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Thank you. Thank you so much.